Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. Today we talk about language and its impact on you and your life and the way things happen around you. There is a concept that is out there that goes, thinking is as bad as doing. Well, if that were the case, then thinking would also be as good as doing. And we all know that you get virtually nothing accomplished if you don't get off the chair, or if you maintain your own outlook, your own view, without thinking it through. Now, the way language works is this. When you think about something, language, in whatever language you're speaking, translates the energy of your thoughts into the physical form. Now, we've talked about a number of different things, about writing things down, but here's the way language works. When you think about something, it starts in the etheric plane. It starts up here. You think about it, it transfers down, that thought comes down into an emotional imperative, the feeling behind why you're saying whatever you're saying, or why you're thinking. Then it moves into the logical side, how to explain what you're feeling. Once you get that logical side down, you can draw it into the physical plane, where you can write it down, thereby showing other people what you're aiming at explaining, and it will make it a little bit more tangible. Net result, it pulls it out of the etheric plane into the physical world, where it can be made manifest. Now, this applies to a lot of different aspects of language. I'm not going to worry about which language. If you can understand this is great, because the only language I speak is English. Unless we go into mumblese and gibberish, but where it comes to language itself, every spoken language that I'm aware of has the same problem. Okay, we say what we think we're thinking, only it comes out confused, which is why I mentioned in another video that communication is invariably a 50-50 problem. Okay, now I made a mistake. It was pointed out to me in one of the videos where I contradicted that. The reality is that communication is absolutely a 50-50 problem. Either you're saying something not quite as clearly as it needs to come out, as is required for the other person to comprehend it, or the other person is not hearing what you're saying properly and is not listening to really what you're intending. Net result, there's a clash. It is imperative that you are clear with what you're aiming for. Okay, with that message, ask yourself this. When you ask a question, is it coming across, is the person giving a reasonable response to what you're asking? Now, there's a lot of different techniques for making certain this happens. The important factor is making sure that you take a look at what you're saying. Now, in this particular little group of videos, which I'm going to title Language, and there will be subtitles after. This one's just an overview. But there are a number of words that come up, and I'm just going to list them off by hand. I probably should have written them down first. But the words that we're going to go into more detail on later are going to be can't, if, want, need, always, never. Okay, now that's only some of them. But every one of the videos in this particular series will be titled Language, and then whichever word we're looking at. Because all of these words that are just listed, plus a few others, do have... Oh, another one is try. Another one of the complications that happens is every one of these words that I will be listing are counterproductive. They literally will stop you from getting where you're aiming for. They will stop you cold. Okay, the reality of it is, I find myself, and you'll notice a lot of the time in my speech pattern, I'll stop myself from saying something, or I'll back up over top of it. This is a habit I've developed to literally get past these impediments. Okay, and I strongly encourage you to do exactly the same thing. Okay, one of the biggest complications you'll find is all things end up developing their own habits. Just about all of them. Okay, the one that doesn't for most people is once you die, you're pretty much dead until your next life, but that's another story altogether. Where it comes to language, be clear, think things through. Now, this is almost invariably a problem where emotions come into consideration. So if you're trying to have, when you're trying to have an emotionally based conversation, such as with a loved one, or a particularly complicated conversation with a coworker or a business associate, do your best to set the meeting up for daytime. Okay, the reason for that has nothing to do with the individual to speak of. It's that emotions are more stable during the day. Daytime is when friendships and business are transacted. Okay, that is when society has got itself trained that that's when the more relaxed side of things come in. Nighttime is when passion comes to the surface. Now, that's great if you're trying to have a positive conversation. But if you're having one that's complicated because of a breach of trust or a breach of etiquette or whatever, if you have it at night, the odds are your emotions are going to be a lot more intense. It's also imperative with really complicated related conversations, watch the moon cycle. Okay, and I will do a video in the moon regarding the moon cycle. Yeah, that came out well, which is under another series I'm doing. Okay, that I will be putting up. Part of it's already up on astrology, but the gist of the moon cycle is this: the full moon, because humans, because the physical body is primarily water, the impact on the human body and on the way that people interact is directly affected by the cycle of the moon. Okay, just like the tides of the planet are affected by the cycle of the moon. So under a full moon, okay, and 2 days either side of said full moon, you'll find emotions are even more unstable, or more intense is a better way to put it, I believe. So keep an eye on both of those. Daytime, not under the full moon for the really complicated conversations. Okay. Understanding that you still have to think your way through what you're talking about. Now, when we look at all of this, communication is the backbone of societal advancement. If you cannot communicate, you're going to have problems. And just as a quick little added note for people, if you're moving from one country to another, okay, now your country, you speak in whatever language you're speaking. Okay, now I'll do it in reverse here because I'm not going there. Okay, I only speak English. Now, if I were planning on moving to France or to Quebec, where the primary language is French, then if I'm moving to that country, it is my responsibility, following karmic law, do unto others as you desire them to do unto you. If I were moving to a country that speaks a language I don't, then it is my responsibility to find a way to learn that language, either when I get there or before I go. Now, most countries already have things in place to teach immigrants, or even teach visitors for that matter, their language. Okay, language is the way to communicate. It is the way to get your ideas across to people. Okay, now, there's a lot of different ways of doing it. For instance, I took a course years ago in sign language, which is another language, and it's one that there are some really fascinating people that have lost or never had the ability to speak. Sign language is a language. Okay, and there are ways to do it. I mean, let's face it. If a gorilla can figure out how to sign language, anybody can. And that's nothing against gorillas. Okay, but if a gorilla can learn, then so can you. If people coming from another country to Canada, if some people can learn English coming here, then there is no functional reason why, if you're planning on moving to another country, you can't learn their language. And all the words that we're going to talk about all of those words are debilitating in every culture, in every language. Okay, so that said, and this, instead of rambling in circles here, we're going to cut this one short because this is just an introduction. But again, the languages, the words that we're going to focus on: can't, need, want, try, if, always, never. There are a few others, okay, but they will all be under a video where the primary the primary title will be language, and then I'll specify what the word is. Now, this said, as I said, we were going to keep this short. I hope you watched the video all the way to the end, but do like it. Subscribe to the channel so all the videos coming up you can get firsthand that they've arrived. And carry on with your day. And by all means, share this with those around you. Thank you very much for your time. Glad to have you here again. And we will see you again tomorrow. Take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.